2 weeks ago, Lausitz played host to A1 Grand Prix. The state-of-the-art German circuit provided a tougher test for some more than others.
New Zealand stalled on the grid too. Oh, what dramas! What dramas indeed! Lebanon down the inside, and oh dear! What a disastrous start for Brazil.
3 cars abreast as they come down to touching wing. PK accident.
He should get a punishment because it's not a little mistake, it's a big mistake, and he was lucky that nothing happened.
A disappointing end to the weekend for PK Jr., and it looked much the same for Team GBR until an incredible drive from Robbie Kerr in the feature saw the Brit move up the grid from last to finish second. It was a different red, white and blue combination though which dominated the day's racing as Nicolas Lapierre picked up maximum points for the French. We're at Estoril for the third race in the A1 Grand Prix of Nations as Portugal welcomes qualifying and the World Cup of Motorsport. Good afternoon, it is race 3 in the series calendar, and this weekend Portugal's Estoril circuit is home to A1 Grand Prix. The track here has seen some famous faces compete on it over the years. Over the next couple of days, a fresh breed of drivers will look to make their names here. That all starts this afternoon with live qualifying, the first of the 4 sessions, getting underway in just under 15 minutes time. We're building up to that in the studio. Joining me, our analyst for the series, BMW Formula 1 test driver Andy Prix and Sky Sports' Keith Hewen. Let's start with you, Keith. Lausitz a fortnight ago, packed full of drama. What can we expect from Portugal and from Estoril?
More drama, I'm sure, but hopefully not of the kind where wheel nuts are sticking and stalled motors on the grid. I'm sure they will have got that sorted out this time round. I think driver of the series so far goes to Robbie Kerr. The most dramatic, 22 places he made up from an appalling situation through into second place. I think we're going to see more of that again today, depending on qualifying. It's been wet over there. I think it does depend a lot on the weather as to what kind of race we're going to get for the first one.
Well, Andy, A1 is predominantly about driver ability, isn't it? So how important is team setup as well this weekend?
Very important. The drivers have had a very difficult practice sessions with changeable conditions. The very few laps they've had, they've got to make sure the information is accurate to the team, and they've got to develop the car because now it's qualifying and it looks like it could be dry.
Well, weather was best described as changeable yesterday. In fact, it was absolutely pouring it down in Portugal and Estoril. These are the conditions, and these how testing they were for various drivers, including Alexander Prema there.
Yeah, there's not much you can do in these kind of conditions. Now, this car, Andy, if I can bring you to this, very loose on the rear end in these conditions. I think the drivers, they've got the front end nailed down, but they do have a lot of difficulty in these things turning round on them.
Absolutely. I think, the downshifting is very, very difficult. You've got a paddle shift, but it can lock the rears. Finding brake balance is really, really crucial. You can see Sean there, Sean McIntosh of Canada, struggle with front wheel locking and understeer. And you can see here, I believe, the down change. You can see that Matt's on power, running wide on the exit and spinning. It's very, very greasy conditions.
We haven't had the pleasure yet, gentlemen, have we, of an A1 Grand Prix weekend which is covered with problems regarding the weather. We understand today it's not going to be as bad as it was yesterday. We understand that it is shining and the sun is bright and clear over in Portugal at the moment. But if it is a little changeable, Keith, how many problems could that throw up?
I think Andy touched on it a moment ago. It's about setup. It's about having that long run at setting the car up into the perfect conditions. If it's consistently wet, it's easy to set up for. If it's consistently dry, it is. But when you've got changing conditions, these teams have got very, very minimal amounts of time. Although this weekend they've had more time because obviously they had an extra practice session to run the second cars that some of the teams have got at the moment. So some will have a little bit more data here than others.
Well, it was dry this morning, you'll be pleased to hear, so let's take you through who was fastest in practice earlier on. Fastest in practice was Czech Thomas Engels at the lap time of 1:32.781. Double winner at Brands, Nelson Piquet Jr. went the second fastest. GBR's Robbie Kerr in amongst it too. Second in the feature at Lausitz, he went third quickest. Behind him, the Netherlands' Jos Verstappen and German driver Adrian Sutil driving in his first A1 Grand Prix. Scott Speed up there too for Team USA. Had a disastrous time at Lausitz. He'll be looking to put things right here. Home talent Alvaro Parente being consistently good over practice. He went 7th fastest. Sean McIntosh of Canada driven in all 4 races so far. He'll feature again. Ralph Furman 9th and 6th respectively at Lausitz in amongst the contenders as well. So too Mexico's Salvador Duran, who completes that top 10. So practice affected yesterday by the weather and conditions in Estoril. Let's catch up with our pit lane reporter Lee McKenzie for the latest ahead of this afternoon's qualifying.
Welcome to Estoril in Portugal for round 3 of A1 Grand Prix. I'm very pleased to say the sun's come out because the conditions here over the past 24 hours have been horrendous. It's not just rained, but it's completely poured. So much so that yesterday's qualifying session in the afternoon was delayed because of the dangerous conditions. There was some concern it wouldn't go ahead at all, but it did, and one man who took part is Great Britain's Robbie Kerr. Robbie, it didn't look much fun out there yesterday. How bad were the conditions on the track?
They were very bad. The track was very wet. Going around from one lap to the next, the track was completely different, and so it was quite entertaining to drive, but it was just keep the car on the island and learn as much as you can.
The sun has come out. It was dry this morning. Does that mean to say, just before qualifying, that everything you learned yesterday about the car and the handling is scrapped, or can you take anything forward for today's session?
It's not completely scrapped. We still have the balance of the car, which we're working on in the wet, will stay relatively the same for the drive, but the setups are different, and so we can't use everything we learnt.
You have had a dry session this morning. It started off wet. I think most people ended up on slicks. I suppose that gives you some hints too.
Yeah, we did have some dry running this morning, well, relatively dry. Still damp patches out on the circuit, particularly in some of the braking areas, so it's going to be interesting to see in qualifying exactly what the track's like and what happens.
2 weeks now since your first A1 podium. Has that given yourself and the team a renewed confidence?
It's given it a little bit more boost, but we were already confident with what we could do anyway and where we were. And it's just shown that we had the pace coming from the back of the grid.
The other teams aren't listening. What can we expect from you this afternoon?
Hopefully a bit more, bit further up on the grid, and we'll just wait and see in the race.
Robbie, thanks very much. You better go and get ready. Team Great Britain hoping for that all-important pole position. Another team to look out for is France. Alex Prima is back in the car, despite the fact that Nicolas Lapierre did the double in Germany just 2 weeks ago. Alex was quickest yesterday. He did sit out the practice session this morning. The man who was fastest this morning was the Czech Republic's Thomas Enga. That was a bit of a surprise. One thing which is not is plenty of excitement guaranteed this afternoon.
Certainly will be. We're all looking forward to it here in the studio. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, live qualifying with the first of the 4 sessions from Estoril. Welcome back to Portugal and to the Autodromo do Estoril, where the first of the 4 15-minute qualifying sessions is due to get underway very shortly. You'll be pleased to see there that the sun is shining after a disastrous day of rain and wet weather yesterday. Let's chat to our studio guests here with me, Andy Prio and Keith Hewen. Keith, Robbie Kerr we're talking about just before the break, and we saw him chatting there with our pit lane reporter Lee McKenzie. Second in the feature at Lausitz. How much confidence will that bring him coming into this race here in Portugal?
I don't think Robbie's lacking in confidence. I think he gets on fairly well with the car, but he hasn't had a straightforward run at it yet. I think at Brands Hatch he had problems, obviously at Lausitz he had problems. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Robbie will get a straightforward set of qualifying, get himself in a good grid position for the sprint race and be right there at the start of the feature race. That will be what he's aiming for. I don't think he's lacking in confidence. He's certainly not lacking in skill. Watch out for Robbie.
Ralph Furman, not someone lacking in confidence or skill either. He's amongst the top 10 in practice. How serious a contender is he this weekend, Andy?
You can never rule him out. He's a quick driver. He's got Formula 1 pedigree, but he, to me, is missing something at the moment. Robbie's looking more dangerous, and I'm pleased to see that. But Brazil are very consistent as well with Nelson Piquet Jr. So Ralph's got a lot of work to do if he wants to beat those guys at the moment.
Thomas Enga, quickest in practice. How big a surprise is that, Keith?
Not a surprise, I don't think, to any drivers or pundits like myself that watch this. What was a surprise was his poor performance last time out. But of course, he now is away from the IndyCars. The IndyCars finished last weekend. He can concentrate 100% on this. That may be the difference.
OK, well, let's bring you a little bit more about the circuit in Estoril. Here it is.
Grand Prix takes place on the Estoril circuit, not far from the most westerly part of mainland Europe. Close to the beach resorts of Estoril and Cascais, the circuit nestles in the hills above the coastline, with houses and a huge shopping centre just metres away. It's a popular track with the drivers, and part of the reason is the long 900-metre straight that allows opportunities to overtake, either through slipstreaming or through braking late into the tight first corner. The track surface is relatively coarse and porous. It needs to drain the water effectively when heavy Atlantic rain hits the area. The length of the straight could well allow intelligent use of the power boost button to aid overtaking, but the scramble into the first corner, particularly on the start, could lead to damaged cars and bruised egos, and probably some more telltale tyre marks. The first corner accident in the sprint race at Lausitz is still fresh in the memory. The middle section of the track lies behind the pits, beginning with a fast kink and leading to the interior parabolica. The approach to the flat-out right-hander is straightforward enough, but as the cars sweep through, still accelerating, they'll be flat out in 6th gear on the approach to the 180-degree left-hander that climbs uphill on the exit and where a variety of lines can be used depending on weather conditions. This close to the Atlantic, the strong sea breezes can cause rapid changes to the conditions, and if you get it wrong, the gravel trap awaits just inches off the circuit border. And whilst there is a long straight here, there's also a corresponding slow section. The Variante was introduced in the 1990s to slow the cars on the final section, and it really is tight. The right-hander leading in allows some speed to be maintained, but the uphill left and right beyond are tortuous curves where the driver is on full lock one way and then the other. It's a track with variety, elevation change and character. Estoril, the host of the last European visit of the current A1 Grand Prix series.
That then is what the drivers will have to contend with if they're to be successful in this afternoon's qualifying at Estoril in Portugal. The home driver there, Alvaro Parente, he's been impressive, hasn't he, in the last day or so, Andy?
Yeah, he has. I mean, obviously he's local, but I believe there's no such thing as a home circuit anymore because all these drivers are really, really good.
Interesting there as well, he's in his second car, he's in the white writing on the black nameplate. Keep an eye out for that, ladies and gentlemen, because obviously a lot of these teams have got their second cars now.
A couple of notable others to bring your attention to. Adrian Suter, one of them, getting his first drive in A1 Grand Prix this weekend, referred to German Timo Scheider. Qualifying's about to get underway. Let's join our commentators John Watson and Ben Edwards. Of the 4 qualifying sessions that is due to get underway. In the studio with me watching the action is Keith Hewen and Andy Prio. How will the teams be feeling ahead of this, the first of the 4 qualifying sessions, bearing in mind what they've had to contend with over the last day or so, Keith, which are terrible weather conditions, and now the sun is shining?
You've answered your question. It's dry, and that's what they're going to be so enthusiastic about. This is a session where they're going to go out. I think with these 4 sessions, they're only allowed 1 run at it each. So I think they're going to try and crack it off as quick as they can, this early one, get the best banking time in that they can, Andy, just in case the weather turns and they don't have a banker of a time.
Will it all be about timing, Andy?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it looks like it's good weather, but you know, it's been very changeable. It's windy. You could have a shower mid-session, which will really totally affect your lap time, send you down the back of the grid. These guys are going out now in a dry setup with new tyres, not really sure what to expect from their car. This is when I believe the experienced drivers will really shine and will perform, you know, under this sort of pressure.
We have seen a couple of them, haven't we, performing in this scenario. Jos Verstappen putting in the 4th fastest practice time. He hasn't performed too well over the last races of Brands and Lausitz, but performing here, it would seem.
Absolutely. I'm talking to his engineer this morning, and you know, Jos is struggling to make the transition from Formula 1. There's a lot of traction control and driver aids in Formula 1, and here you have a car that's really moving around, and he's overdriving the car. Maybe in a situation like this where you've got 1 lap, Jos might have the tendency to overcook it, whereas guys who've come from Formula 3, who are used to just balancing the car and underdriving the car a little bit, might shine in this situation.
Enrico Toccacelli, that you can see in your picture there, the Italian driver, 13th fastest in practice this morning. Perhaps not so impressive as we've seen of him previously, Keith.
No, we can expect a lot more, I think, from the Italian. I mean, what's caught my eye is the fact that the Russians are back and the Japanese are not here this weekend. They're obviously committed to other things at the moment, but the French have had a disastrous 3rd practice. That's a big problem for them. They are right down the order at the moment. Only 7 laps in the 3rd practice this weekend so far, so looking for great things from their drivers.
Plenty of drivers being put through their paces in this, the first of the 4 qualifying sessions. Timing is everything, as our studio guest Andy Prio has said. Let's hand you over to our commentators, John Watson and Ben Edwards.
coming down into turn 6. This was a very problematic corner for lots of drivers in the wet. Obviously much easier in the dry, but they've got to redefine their braking zones. They're going to be arriving at that corner quicker. They're going to have to brake heavier. So it's all really, this first session for most of the 24 nations here will be about rediscovery, or in fact just simply discovery of the racetrack.
Yes, Shaban, along with some other drivers, has tested a Formula 3000 car here in the past, so it's to give him a bit of experience, but it's a different prospect. In the A1 Grand Prix car, you saw a little bit of a lock-up under braking. That is the slowest corner on the track, and now he's heading up through a fairly tight left-hander. This is the one he's going through now, and now into the long sweeping right-hander, turn 13, the Senna curve, and this is the one we were talking about, a big challenging corner.
And the benchmark time that we would expect Lebanon to aim for was the Czech Republic's time this morning, 1:32.7, and in fact he's way beyond that. It's going to be 35.822. Now, that doesn't look too bad in reality, but it's been 2 hours since and that is not what we expected.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see just how quick the times are. But that is a surprise to see them at that level on this first flying lap. Fastest time, as you said this morning, a 1:32.7. But the track has been fully cleaned up. It is, as we say, green, so there's not a lot of grip available in the tarmac. It's going to give all of the teams a little bit of an indication. Perhaps track conditions are not as ideal as we may have thought.
But let's look into the Brazil garage. Let's hope we can get to see whether these are brand new. No, those are in fact the tyres. They are the tyres that Piquet used both on Friday in the dryish period and then this morning when the track was also drying. So he has chosen to go on a used set to get the, if you like, the confidence of sighting of the circuit, and then in maybe sessions 2 and
each of those segments. We're watching Ananda Mikula driving for Indonesia. He is the only man who's driven for Indonesia so far in A1 Grand Prix. And he's put in one or two good performances. We've been quite impressed with Mikula. He qualified 15th last time out at the Euro Speedway and had a good 8th placed finish in the feature race. So scored some points. Indonesia have got some points on the board, unlike some of the top countries like the United States, for example, still struggling to make their presence felt in terms of championship points, along with Italy as well. They're yet to score. Heading down towards that interior parabolica corner. That's the one we were watching the Lebanese car through a moment or two ago. This is where we saw a lot of cars off in the wet, but it's a different line in the dry.
A different corner entirely. In fact, this racetrack, much different wet to dry. And the levels of grip in the rain combined with the wet weather tyre proving very tricky for, I'd say, the majority of the field, from the fastest all the way down to the slowest in any of the wet sessions. So Ananda Mikula comes in now into the series of turn 9, this very tight uphill left, then followed immediately by the flick back to the right, then short shifting up through 11, and this forms part of the S's into 12. Then the beginning of this long right-hand turn 13, Senna turn, where you're picking up speed, you're putting gears all the way through. You have to free the car up on the exit, let it run out to the edge of the curbs. Although the track is dry, there still may be some moisture retained in the cracks in the curves.
Let's see what the time is for Ananda Mikula. He goes fastest by just under a second. Good effort that from the Indonesian team.
And interestingly, only 4 cars so far on track, and they are Indonesia quickest, the Lebanon second, Australia third, and India fourth.
So most teams deciding to wait. Oh, and we've got Brazil having spun. Nelson Piquet has spun. He's kept the engine running. Now let me just take a look at the information. He was on his hot lap. That wasn't on his way out of the pit, so he has completely messed up his first qualifying attempt, John.
Well, I don't know. I can't say that's pressure, but clearly that was an unforced error from Nelson Piquet Jr. and Team Brazil. And having been pretty much impressive over the first 2 rounds, that's, I think, the first time he's really dropped the ball big time. Let's have a look and see. Well, there it is. In fact, we just captured as we look at the Team Lebanon car coming through. So Piquet Jr. in turn 1 at the beginning of his lap. And that one, well, Emerson Fittipaldi says 1 down, 3 to go. Well, probably the good news is that was done on a set of used tyres. He's still got 2 brand new sets of tyres to run on, plus then the best of the rest for the final run.
Robbie Kerr driving for Team Great Britain is on his hot lap, but he's being held up here by Italy. Now that's interesting because Italy's on his out lap. So this is not good news at all for Robbie, who's on a fast lap, but Enrico Toccacello has only just come out of the pit, so that really is going to hurt Robbie Kerr's attempts to set a quick pace.
I think it's destroyed Robbie Kerr's chances totally because he is behind a car that's on an out lap. There's nothing he can do to get past. If he drops back, he loses time. He might as well simply just go back into the pits because Toccacello is not going to yield. And in fact, this is going to be the key to a fast lap. It will be mastery of the traffic, and there's going to be a lot more of it than we're seeing just in these opening moments.
Yes, I think this is going to be crucial, trying to get a clear lap, but Robbie's got to be careful here. Don't get frustrated. The last thing he needs to do is to damage that car. You can afford to throw away at least one of your qualifying attempts, if you like. You can afford to throw away two, I suppose, because it's only the two best times that count. It will be frustrating, but he's going to have to live with it, I think. He comes out of that long corner onto the start-finish straight. He will complete his first flying lap to at least get one in the bank, if you like, but he will be deeply frustrated by that. Across the line they go. Italy only just going on to its timed lap. So Great Britain ending up with the second fastest time.
Well, that is, that is going to be the story of so many drivers, I reckon, by the end of these 4 qualifying sessions. And surely there should be something available to a driver in an out lap situation such as on Toccacello when there's a car on its qualifying lap. And we go back to Team Switzerland, Neil Yarni, somebody who has been very strong, particularly in Germany, coming through the long centre S, coming up to the end of his one qualifying lap. Look at the car, look at the angle, watch the exit. Just, he could have used a bit more curve, but maybe just like lack of uncertainty as to whether there is grip out there or not.
Let's see what the time is. It's fastest for Switzerland by 1.3 seconds. Mexico had just popped up there, but that is a very impressive time, a 32.9. Still not faster than we saw this morning, but remember, when we saw this times this morning, they had time to build up the heat in the tyres. Here, they've got to do it in just one lap. Now, what is USA going to do? Scott Speed's on a quick lap here. He set some good early sector times, but will it be enough to challenge the time that has been set by Switzerland, the new target to beat?
Well, certainly the body language of the car looked as if there's a lot of confidence coming from Scott Speed, and that's been something that's not been always there. But look at the time, way 2.6 seconds off. Where did he lose all that time? Because the end of the lap looked very good. Something went wrong at the beginning of it. Yeah, well, maybe there was traffic affecting the American team as well. We saw how it affected Great Britain. Great Britain have been pushed down to 4th now as a result of Switzerland going fastest. Mexico is 2nd, Indonesia 3rd. USA have come in behind Great Britain as we're riding on board now with Portugal. So it's all here on the shoulders of Alvaro Parente, the young Portuguese driver, going through turn 6, good clean exit, runs down into the braking in turn 7. Easy to misjudge your braking in here. You've got to get the speed off the car. It's one of those slow in, on the throttle, early quick out, then the quick flick through turn 8, then over to the right hand side, on the brakes, down the gearbox, 2/10 down, fighting on the steering wheel, then there's traction, no traction control here. You've got to modulate that with your foot, balance the car on the throttle and the steering, into 11, into 12. He was 2/10 down at that split time. Can he make that up? He's got to beat a 1:32.971 from Switzerland. 10 seconds for the rest of the racetrack to get it done by. Here he comes then onto the straight. It's quite a long run out of this corner before you actually get to the timing beam, and the time ticks away, and it's not going to be enough. He goes second fastest by 0.6 of a second. Alvaro Parente currently second. He qualified 11th for the first round of the championship at Brands Hatch. He was 9th on the grid for the sprint race in Germany. Currently he's second, but there's still a lot of quick cars to go, and none more so than France. We're waiting to see what Alexander Premack can do for the French team. Well, we're saying pretty much everybody so far has come out on the tyres that they ran on Friday morning and at the end of the final practice session here this morning. So no one has chosen to take the new tyre option, feeling clearly that it is better to give drivers the opportunity to reacclimatise themselves to the grip, because grip levels will be different, and just generally it's the right way to do it. Faris Fauzi driving for Malaysia here this weekend. Alex Young is here, but he's not going to be sharing the car with Fauzi, which is what they've done in previous races. Malaysia will concentrate on Fauzi this weekend and probably on Alex Young at Eastern Creek, the next round of the championship. He's raced there before. And Fauzi's been going quite well so far in the wet free practice sessions that we've had. He was 10th in the first free practice. He also was going well in the second one, and this morning too wasn't a bad effort. He was quite well up and just dropped down
towards the end, not getting in such a quick lap at the end. Let's just see what this one's going to be.
Well, again, a bobble coming through the long centre curve. Car runs right out into the middle of the racetrack. In the wet, that area of the racetrack is good. In the dry, too far out to the left. 1.4 seconds down to the second intermediate.
Let's see.
1.9 at the end of the lap.
So he goes fifth. It's Indonesia fourth and Malaysia fifth. Not much to choose between the two countries, but we're on board now with the man who set the pace in the free practice session this morning. But he's half a second down on the second split.
Yes, between the first and second splits is the area that most time appears to being lost. Thomas Enger, very impressive this morning, quickest of all. Now, can he make up that half second? Well, that's a big call. The main thing from this lap is to get as near to the front as you can, to then have that as a banking lap. You go into your second, third and fourth runs.
So, Czech Republic, are they going to do enough here? Not enough to go fastest, but they do go second. So the Czech Republic, Thomas Enger, the experienced racer, goes second. There's only just under 2 minutes to go, and France are on track now. So France, who have been the pace setters here this weekend when it's been wet. Oh, and he runs right over the curb there, Preyman.
And he needs to be careful because there's so much water being held in those curbs. Comes down into turn one, watches the back end, steps out. That's because he gets very close to the curb. There he rides the curb, kicks up the spray. He does it down at turn three as well.
Yeah, but has he managed to maintain the momentum? That's the question for France, for Alexander Preyman. This was the other moment. This was the moment to get out of that first corner as he flicked up the water. But the question is, how is the rest of the lap going? His first sector time wasn't too bad, and he's still on his flying lap now.
So comes down into, this is turn 7.
Yep, downhill into the right-hander, and he runs along a little short straight, coming up towards the second sector point. This will give us an idea whether he's really going to challenge. He's up, despite the early mistakes. He's up by over 1/10 of a second, and Alexander Preyman again showing the French team is going to be strong.
So watch him through this final S's into the centre curve. He's used the curbs more than anybody we have seen so far. He's taken the risk because there is a lot of water being held in that. Will he do it on the exit of 13 as Adrian Sutul and Team Germany gets it all wrong? But here's France. We didn't get to see it because of Adrian Sutul, but this time ought to see certainly a small improvement.
He does it.
0.6 of a second.
France goes fastest. Switzerland pushed back to second place. The Czech Republic third. And France once again showing tremendous speed in qualifying. But still out on circuit, we've got Ireland. Ralph Furman here driving with him on board at this section of the circuit. And we've also got one or two others who have left it quite late. So we'll see. He's quite well down on the sector time. 1.1 seconds down. That's a surprise for Ralph Furman.
So he's not going to make up that much time. Well, Furman coming back, of course, from racing in Japan last weekend in GT over there. Nevertheless, gets the car in, a little bit of understeer as he turns in. The car runs slightly wide.
Let me just tell you though, John, that Jos Verstappen's on a quick lap further behind. He's left it to the very last minute. So Ireland, they're going to come up into the top 10, but it's 5th place for Ireland. But Jos Verstappen for Team Netherlands is on a good lap at the moment. The checkered flag is out, but he will be allowed to finish off this particular lap, and we'll get a chance to see whether he can put in an improvement here.
So Jos Verstappen comes down into turn 7. A man who made his name here in a test, 1993, stunned everybody, and then went on and had a Grand Prix career. Now, a more senior race driver, much older than most of them around him, but look, 0.7 of a second, he's lost a bunch of time, 3/4 of a second. Where that has gone, we didn't get to see, but whatever it has gone to, it's not really going to come back.
I don't think he will get it back. It's a shame. He was 0.005 of a second faster to the first checkpoint, but he's lost a lot of it to the second split. And we'll see. He might still be able to get into the top 3, perhaps beat the Czech Republic. They're currently 3rd. So Netherlands here goes across the line, and it puts them 5th. So he lost a bit more, I'm afraid, on the last part of the lap.
He lost a further half second. So what looked very promising in the first sector just disappeared in the final 2 sectors. So the first qualifying session is complete. 15 minutes goes, well,
very quickly.
Like 15 seconds.
It is fast, isn't it? But it's France who lead the way from Switzerland, Czech Republic and Portugal, then Netherlands, and then Ireland now 6th, Germany 7th, Mexico 8th, Canada put in a late one. They came into 9th ahead of Indonesia and Malaysia, New Zealand 12th, and South Africa. Thomas Schechter's driving for South Africa again this weekend, 13th. Russia, good effort from Russia, John, 14th for new driver Mikhail Aleshin, 18-year-old, and it's good to see Russia back in A1 Grand Prix this weekend. And let's just take a look at that lineup, and we'll pick out one or two for you. Portugal there, the host nation, 4th. Ralph Furman 6th rather, for Ireland. Adrian Sutil for Germany. Despite we saw him off the track, he still set the 7th fastest time. He could be one to watch. He's raced here at Estoril in the past, and he takes over for Germany from Timo Scheider, who was racing at the last event. Further down, Matt Halliday is driving for New Zealand. Thomas Scheckter, Mikael Aleshin, that's the one we were talking about. He's ahead of Robbie Kerr of Great Britain, but he was held up badly, remember. Italy didn't do much themselves. They ended up 20th, and look at Brazil, 22nd after that little off that we saw, and no time set at all for Matthias Lauda. Apparently had a car problem, so we didn't see him on circuit.
Welcome back to Estoril, Portugal, where the first of the 4 qualifying sessions of the afternoon has seen France set the fastest time so far, with Alexander Premat in the driving seat. Things are not so good for Robbie Kerr. We'll talk about him in just a moment. One man who had other problems during that session, Matthias Lauda of Team Austria. He's been speaking to Gareth Jones.
The Austrian garage looks like the saddest but the busiest garage in the pit lane at the moment. What's the problem?
Yeah, it's a shame. So we couldn't take part in the first qualifying session because of the free practice, where the problem was the gearbox, and we had 2 hours, but we couldn't fix in 2 hours. Hope I can go out in the last 2 sessions of qualifying, but it would not be easy because for me it's the first time that I will drive here on really dry conditions. So go out straight in dry conditions without doing a lap before will not be easy for us, but I will give my best and we'll see where we can end.
How hopeful are you that they can get the problem fixed and you will get out?
I think they get fixed, but I hope as soon as possible. I hope I can be in the next session.
Matthias, good luck.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Let's get the thoughts of our studio analysts, Keith Ewan and Andy Prio, here in the studio with me. We spoke about the fact that Matthias Lauda there had problems, so too Robbie Kerr, Keith.
Do you know what? I'm still seething over watching what I did there. The Italian that was in front of him was on an out lap. He clearly could see in his mirrors that Robbie Kerr was on a fast lap and was behind him. He didn't give him a single chance to get underneath him, so Robbie Kerr was completely messed up in his out lap, in his fast lap. There has to be some system, surely, in the future where that isn't going to balk another fast driver again. If I'd have been Robbie, I'd have been looking to get under the Italian into his fast lap.
First thing I'd be doing is going to race control and finding out why I didn't see any blue flags, because Toccocello clearly didn't see Robbie. I think Estoril, obviously with the pit lane exit, on the exit of the first corner, you couldn't time it, but there, you know, his mirrors are full, he's much quicker. That's naughty, but what I say is what goes around comes around in motor racing, and the situation will be reversed at some point. Robbie's still got 3 runs left, but it's annoying. Maybe he's used new tyres as well.
Well, that is obviously a problem as well as far as tyres are concerned, but I think, as I was about to say a moment ago, if I'd have been Robbie, I'd have tried to get under him on my slowing down lap and muck up the Italian's fast lap, but that's just being vindictive, I suppose. But very, very frustrating for Robbie Kerr, and certainly not how he wanted to start his first qualifying session off.
Keith, we have spoken about the fact that France did set the fastest time so far with Alexander Premat in the driving seat. And so far, from what we're seeing of France, how impressive is their team setup? Because it's not just with Alexander Premat, is it, in the driving seat?
I think Premat and Lapierre are great drivers anyway. Their team, the Dams team, I think, Andy, isn't it? It's Jean-Paul Driot and his team, well established, very, very good team as far as setting cars up are concerned. Seem to have stolen a bit of a march right the way from Brands Hatch. So I think Premat, Lapierre, great drivers, great team, and clearly it's showing.
Nelson Piquet Jr. was looking to impress Andy, but it all went horribly wrong for him in that session, didn't it?
Yeah, the worst thing possibly happened, you know, a spin on your flying lap. It's annoying, and also it ratchets the pressure up on yourself as well, because now he's only got 3 runs left. He hasn't bagged a nice lap time in the bag, so he's actually not on the grid at the moment. And, you know, he may be relaxed and look relaxed, but the pressure is mounting on him.
I think Piquet made a bit of an unforced error, if you ask me. I think maybe he was a bit hot into turn 1, got out on that very wet curb, found himself facing the wrong way at the start of his hot lap. And 1 or 2 drivers. The French, indeed, they were right out on the curbs in the wet too.
Yeah, I was quite surprised with the commitment there. I mean, to me, the curbs are going to be wet and slippery, but the French driver, Premat, there was running right up on the exit curbs.
Now, this guy, Neil Yarni, we know he's a great driver, or he's a good driver, but he's certainly impressed us here at Estoril.
he's got a lot of consistency. He's come fresh out of GP2 this season. He's driving well and he's consistent. That's what you need.
The other thing I noticed a lot of, you can see the SUI, the Swiss badge on the side of the car. That's black writing on a white badge. That's their #1 car. Now, we did notice that Nelson Piquet was out on the car with the white writing on the black background. That's his #2 car. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, maybe he prefers the #2 car. It's a new car and maybe it's a psychological advantage, we don't know.
Okay, with the drivers and the teams lining up to take part in this, the second qualifying session of 4 this afternoon. They're just taking their places right now with France. They're setting the fastest time of session 1. Let's see what the drivers can do in this session 2 and join our commentary team of John Watson and Ben Edwards for more.
We look inside the Red Bull on the back and Look Oil, so the Russian team.
Yeah, Michael Aleshin,
Yes.
that is. Who,
what a transformation in Russia, because in first round of Brands Hatch they really did struggle with 2 drivers who were more accustomed to driving in other forms of motor racing, principally in sports cars or GT, and jumping into a highly competitive single-seater at a racetrack like Brands Hatch is a daunting task, even for a young man like me.
Well, it's exciting to see Aleshin here. There are 2 young Russians here this weekend, in fact, but it's Aleshin who's been given qualifying duties. Alexander Turumin is the other. He's 25-year-old. Aleshin only 18, but he did finish runner-up in the German Formula Renault Championship just a couple of weeks ago, in fact. Out on circuit, though, there is Arman Ibrahim of India, and he's trying to get himself up inside the top 20. Now, remember that whoever sets a second qualifying time first is effectively going to take the pole position, which you have to have 2 times under your belt to effectively qualify. And so whoever goes across the line having set their second sector time, their second segment time before anyone else, will go to the top of the pile. And as everyone else comes back out to do their second flying lap, of course, that will all change into the more familiar order, seeing people like France, Switzerland, Czech Republic and Portugal up near the front. Let's just keep an eye on Arman Ibrahim here. Here he is. He's done his outlap, and now he's on it. Now he's fully committed to 1 flying lap.
And of course, he's had the benefit of that first 15-minute qualifying session. He has got a sense of what the racetrack feels like. It is totally different to any point over the previous day and a half he's been here running. So he ought to be able to find some improvement on his run in that first session. 1 minute 38.9 was the time he established. That put him 20th quickest. So a lot of work for Ibrahim and Team India. Nevertheless, at 16 years of age in a car of this power, in a totally different race context to that he's accustomed to, that's pretty big demand.
Yeah, but look at the confidence that he's moving that car around with. He's not scared of it, is he? You know, the car's moving beneath him, but he's applying the power. No traction control, as we mentioned earlier on, and it's up to the driver to keep it under control.
Well, 16 years old, you've got all the confidence, all the, if you like, just sheer ego in the world. It can be dented quite easily. Nevertheless, coming now into the second run, midway through the second lap into turn 7, he knows what the track feels like, he knows what the car feels like. He is on a set of tyres that he used in that first session, so there should be a reasonable increase. Remember, 138.9 was the first lap that he achieved.
But notice now that at the top of your screen, the fastest car is Lebanon, and it has an aggregate time. So the time you're seeing at the top of the screen, next to the Lebanon flag, is the total of his 2 times added together so far. That is the aggregate time, and that is what determines the grid position for the sprint race. And beneath, you're seeing what the total time for India is going to be with his first lap added together to this second lap, and it's going to be quite a big difference between him and Lebanon. Over the 2 laps, the gap 4.8 seconds.
So Italy comes through, and I would expect Italy to leapfrog Lebanon. It does, so Italy go quickest. They finish 3 minutes 10. That's the combined time. The individual lap was 1 minute 34.2. In fact, 36.3.
So, yeah, 36.3 second lap for Italy, and well, I should think he'll be fairly happy about that. But on track now is China. Let's see, well, you can see the clock ticking away on that one. This is not going to be a particularly quick aggregate, I'm afraid, for Team China. He's well off. He must have gone off track, surely, to have a time that slow.
Well, I've seen Tang Jiang doing a pretty good job considering the experience and background that he's come from, but somewhere around this lap, clearly he's got it all wrong. As Australia comes across start-finish line,
Yep, Australia now going on to their hot lap. So this is Will Davison. Let's keep an eye on how he gets on. His first session time that he set was pretty reasonable. It was a 35.9, but remember, we've got to get down into the 32s to be quick here. Oh, a little bit of a lock up into the right-hander climbing up the hill, and he's half a second down on Italy's aggregate split time.
So he's got to keep it neat, tidy. All of these corners, they're not high-speed corners. They're second, third gear, putting a premium on the mechanical side of the car. There's a problem. He has a problem.
What's happened? Completely slowed down. He came out of the corner. It just died.
Now that's either electrical. Alan Jones was perplexed. Either they're electrical or mechanical. Looking at the back of the car, we saw that Matthias Lauda's Austrian entry had a problem with the transmission. I wonder if this is something similar. Something literally caused that engine, gearbox, whatever, just to shut down.
Yeah.
Team Australia's on the side of the track. And Alan Duncan just to the right of Alan Jones looks as perplexed as Alan Jones.
That is a very strange one. There seemed no problem. He accelerated out of the corner and suddenly there was nothing there. No response at all. And that is a very, very strange occurrence for Team Australia, and that's certainly going to hurt their attempts to qualify well here. Out on circuit now, Indonesia looking like they could put together a good aggregate time here. With the second lap, they're going to go fastest, and by a reasonable margin. Indonesia are fastest at the moment of the teams that have set 2 laps. A lap in each of the 2 qualifying segments so far. Indonesia fastest, their aggregate 3 minutes and 7.6 seconds. And everyone else, we're still waiting for many of the quick cars to come out for their flying lap in this second qualifying segment. But what bad luck for Will Davison.
Yes, also Will Davison reluctant to drive his car or let his car run onto the grass by the side of the track because there are stones there. He wants to keep those tyres as clean as possible. And I'm not entirely sure he should have left on the racetrack because that may be an issue that other cars coming around would feel that it unsighted them.
Now, Pakistan, we're watching Adam Khan at the wheel of the Pakistan entry, and he's just weaving his way through the last section of the track as well. Let's see whether he can find an improvement here. His session 1 time wasn't particularly quick, 35.977, so it's unlikely that he's going to be able to really challenge on aggregate this time around. Let's just see across the line, it's not going to be a challenge. He goes 3rd fastest for the moment though, but it's a big gap between himself and the Indonesian car of Ananda Mikula.
Yeah, and as we saw in the first session, most of what we would call the big beasts are hanging back as we get this Team Australia car. It's got to be pulled to safety. It cannot be left at the side of the racetrack as Will Davison left it. So let's see, the car comes out, begins accelerating, and then all of a sudden, nothing.
He was a bit bumpy over the curve, not nothing untoward, but maybe there was some damage in a drive shaft already and it suddenly gave up. I don't know, strange one. Mexico's just gone fastest. You just saw the caption change a moment ago, and Mexico have now taken the fastest time on aggregate with their second lap, a 32.887, so a pretty good lap from Mexico second time around. But what is going on for poor old Australia? I'm not sure that they really know either. They're trying to get that car back to the pit safely, and I think we've got an opportunity to speak to Alan Jones and see if he does know any more than we do.
Yeah, he's reporting in that the fire extinguisher went off, so I don't know whether he's hit the button by mistake, which I doubt, or whether it's been a short circuit, but he's got fire extinguisher all over him, so it was a bit of a shame. He was going all right until then.
It's not the easiest thing to clean up from the car either, is it?
No, but we'll get it in, we'll get it cleaned up. We've got a new one to put in and we'll be ready to go out for the next session, so better luck next time.
Alan, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's a bizarre occurrence indeed, isn't it?
Well, it does happen. Normally it's caused by what we know as finger trouble in the trade, but that appears to be a self-afflicted issue where it went off unexpected. Now, why it should have stopped the car, because unless there is an electrical short, which would have caused the car just simply to shut down, if the extinguisher went off on its own, then he should ought to be able to get the car back or complete the lap. I bet he might be a bit on the chilly side when he got back again for that.
Absolutely, yeah, not much fun having fire extinguishers all over you. Now, Malaysia and Indonesia, do you remember they were very, very close after the first qualifying segment? They were separated by mere hundredths of a second. Indonesia are currently second fastest. Can Malaysia go one better, maybe even take fastest time outright here from Mexico? This is the attempt from Faraz Fauzi as he comes out of the final corner. The time to beat, the aggregate time 3:07. 1:07.181. Let's see if it's enough. It's not enough. Oh, yes, it is enough. He just does it. Look.
He just pinches it by just over a tenth of a second, and he ran wide coming through the centre curve. He let the car get really too far right to the left, but he managed to retain his momentum and the time. Team New Zealand on board now. Halliday back in the car after Johnny Reid served out his time in Germany.
Yes, and Matt just getting to grips. He is on his flying lap. You can see the clock come up. And remember, being compared with the best aggregate time so far. New Zealand's first session time wasn't that quick. It was a 1:35.040. So he really needs to find a bit of pace compared to that. But remember, he doesn't really... Oh, there's that Australian car right on line.
And that a lot of drivers, a lot of teams could justifiably say that car was a problem because our drivers come round, there's the car stuck in the middle of the corner, stuck in the middle of the racetrack. You know, it ought to have been cleared away more quickly than it is being currently.
Yeah, let's see what the split time is as he comes through up towards the tight section. 1.3 seconds down on the aggregate time of Malaysia. So there's still plenty to do here.
And really working very hard behind the wheel. That Halliday struggling to try and get traction, get the grip. Those slower corners, turns 8 and 9, and then through this long turn 13, car gets more settled as the aerodynamics begin to play their part, runs out to the edge of the track. Good exit, but of course all that time lost in the first two sectors are going to damage his overall time.
So across the line goes New Zealand. He does go third fastest overall, and it was a good lap. That was a good individual lap, not bad at all. 1:32.607, not the fastest we've seen outright, but it was a good effort. And well, New Zealand, and they would have noticed this, of course, John. This was when he had to avoid the stricken car of Australia.
Well, that's what I've been saying. That car, when it was further back up the track, and then as Matt Halliday comes into turn 6, he rightly could say, look, this is unfair. I mean, that car was on the part of racetrack I was going to use on my entry into turn 6. What are you going to do about it? There's not an awful lot. It's down to the organisers to make sure that they clear cars which are being towed off track away as quickly as possible, and that was not as quickly as possible.
So Malaysia currently fastest from Mexico, New Zealand and Indonesia, but remember these are on their aggregate times, and many other teams, some of the quick teams from the first qualifying segment have yet to come out and put in their second flying lap. So until they've done a second flying lap, they won't feature high on the table here, but Malaysia can celebrate for the moment. It looks as though Austria are nearly ready to come out, and this of course will be their first attempt, their first flying lap. If they can get out in this session, it is looking good for them. Those gearbox repairs have been finalised, and out comes Matheus Lauda.
Team Brazil, Nelson Piquet Jr., and even on the exit of the centre curve, he gets a big bobble, which of course, Team New Zealand diving off to the left of your screen, so don't worry about that.
It's interesting though, because not far ahead of him, Portugal's just got on a hot lap, and Brazil here, Piquet on a hot lap as well. Remember, he made a mistake on his first one. It did look as though he went in a bit deep there into turn 1 as well.
Yes, he's pushing very, very hard. He knows Matheus Lauda pulls out of the way, well spotted by Lauda. Piquet Jr., having made a fundamental error at this part of track on his first flying lap, has got to maximise. He's got 3 out of the remaining sessions to do, so he didn't score a time of any consequence in that first qualifying session. Traffic now all around the Brazilian, and this is what happens when you've got 1.5 minutes of a session remaining.
Now remember, when you see the sector time coming up showing that he's something like 17 seconds down on his sector, that's because the aggregate time includes his first lap time, which was with a spin. So he might put in a very quick individual lap here, but the sector time will show him miles off the aggregate that we've got so far, because his first lap time had a spin and it was interrupted hugely. So look at the second sector time. You'll see it drop down from the top here. He's plus 15 on aggregate, but what matters in a way here is his individual lap time on this particular lap, and whether he'll be able to repeat it in one of the other 2 segments still to go.
And this is the penalty of having 4 individual laps and 4 individual sessions. You've got to get your lap in that one session. You've got to get it spot on. You can't afford to throw away a lap, although you've got 3 other options, because that one you throw away could be the one lap that you needed.
Yeah, across the line he goes. So Brazil getting on the board, and that time 1 minute 30.7. The individual lap time was very fast from Nelson Piquet. That was a very quick lap indeed, and he has set the individual fastest lap time that we have seen this weekend so far.
And that's by some substantial margin. We go on board with Team France now quickest as we go on board with Team USA, Scott Speed. So France once again in that dominant position.
Yeah, Switzerland have also set their second lap, so they've come up to second, so it's looking much more like it did earlier on. France, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Portugal, but what is Great Britain going to be able to do? They've left it quite late. Now, Robbie Kerr putting his second lap together. Where's this going to put him together on aggregate? Let's have a look at it across the line. He goes 9th. Well, he'd be a little disappointed with that. Let's just see what his lap time was. It was a 1 minute 31.7, but that's still about 3/4 of a second slower than France, Switzerland, and even more than that slower than Brazil, nearly a full second slower than Brazil.
So Robbie Kerr, having had total frustration in the first qualifying session, has made up some of that, but of course, like Nelson Piquet Jr., really this is his first lap of any consequence. He's now got 2 more qualifying sessions, 1 flying lap apiece, to get an improvement in position, in particular in grid position for the sprint race on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, but there are still those opportunities existing. Remember, 2 qualifying segments still to go. You can recover from being a long way back under this qualifying format. You can be apparently nowhere, and then you just get maybe you've had 1 quick lap and then 2 disastrous sessions. Now look, Verstappen's out, John. He was quick in that first segment of qualifying. Let's see whether he's dialed it all in on this one. Just looking at the split times, it doesn't actually look that particularly fast here, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to move up quite as much as he would have hoped.
No, he's not, but he certainly looks quick, and sometimes a driver can look very quick, but the time doesn't come. Nevertheless, goes 4th quickest, so the Netherlands are 4th of the best.
Yeah, and it's interesting how late he's been leaving it. Ireland also have left it quite late to set their second time, and that lap is now being completed as well by Team Ireland. They're 10th. 33.2 on that last lap. Not really particularly quick individual lap. You can see that the pit stop practice, which has proved to be so crucial, is still going on down there in the pit lane for Team USA. It's France, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Netherlands, Portugal, Canada, then Germany, Malaysia, Mexico and Ireland. Our top 10. Great Britain 11th, New Zealand 12th, Indonesia 13th, USA 14th, then 15th South Africa, 16th for Russia, 17th Italy, Pakistan, Lebanon, India, Brazil 21st, but Brazil are 21st and they've set the fastest lap we've seen so far.
Yes, but as we have said, it doesn't really matter at this time. All Piquet Jr. has got to do is find in the next 2 sessions comparable laps, and then he will be where he ought to be, and that's near the top of qualifying.
But he's still got to go out there and do it and not make a mistake, so it's crucial stuff, but it is impressive that the individual lap time he managed there. Let's just confirm those positions then. France, Switzerland and the Czech Republic, they've been consistent. Look at their best lap time on the first column there, if you like. A 31.087 there was Alexander Premat's best lap time. We go down to see Ralph Furman in 10th place. Got a bit of work to do because his individual lap time not quite as quick. And then further on down the list, of course, after that we saw Great Britain in 11th, New Zealand in 12th, then Indonesia, USA, South Africa, Russia, Italy, Pakistan, Lebanon, India, Brazil, China, Austria and Australia. And of course Austria.
Welcome back to live qualifying from Estoril, Portugal. We're 2 sessions in and it's France who are still setting the pace at the Autodromo do Estoril, although Nelson Piquet Jr., that certain Brazilian, isn't holding back one little bit. Keith Ewan and Andy Prix join me in the studio to react and analyse that session. And Keith, France best over 2 sessions, but Nelson Piquet Jr. so fast.
Stunning lap that he just put in, and it was a real driver's lap as well. Sideways everywhere, absolutely did it to perfection, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. Driving the car beautifully balanced, a lot of commitment. You can see the car drifting across the road. It looked tidy and impressive from that first mistake in the first session to, well, the fastest lap of the session in the second is great confidence. Still
down in 21st place though after that mess in the first corner of the first session.
Yeah, absolutely. We won't see the true indication of this qualifying, the outcome of qualifying yet until the 3rd or 4th session.
Now for me, the Australians were a little bit lucky in this particular situation. We heard from the Australian team manager a bit earlier on, but first of all this one where the car, he seemed to run it out wide onto the curb, vibrated, shook the car and fired off the fire extinguisher. We weren't too sure at this particular point why the car failed, but when Will Davison got out of the car, completely soaked and well and truly foamed and fuming. You can see they're all a bit concerned in pit lane, Team Australia, Andy. They hadn't quite made their mind up what had gone. You took a bit of a flyer at it, but no one could have guessed until we saw this particular situation. Ringing himself out, Will Davis. Well, you must have had a fire extinguisher go off in the cab with you before. Not a pleasant experience, especially if you haven't got any fire to warm you up.
It's quite annoying, actually. Yeah, but at least it works. That's the most important thing. But I think I'm quite surprised, actually, why he stopped. I mean, OK, it did spray everywhere, but maybe he could have still finished the lap. I think he also had another problem, because the car may have cut out or something.
Well, certainly the car ended up causing a problem a little bit later on, because they looked like they'd hired this particular Jeep to drag the car around, and balking. I mean, I have to say, Matt Halliday must be as mad as hell. Right offline, he has to move right to the inside of the corner, locks up the inside wheel there, and that cost Team New Zealand big time in that session.
It's just so bad and so off-putting. I mean, you've got Marshall standing on the side of the track. Matt could have been looking down at split time on his counter, braking online. It would have had a massive accident. It's very, very dangerous, and I didn't see any blue flags previously with Robbie Kerr's lap, so I'm just questioning a little bit the marshalling there.
Well, Robbie Kerr, of course, he was another man that was desperate to get a quick lap in that qualifying too. And I think a little bit too desperate, perhaps, because he was just looked to us like he was in a bit of a mess here, wasn't he? And a bit of a struggle to try and get this car stuck to the road. Yeah, you notice there's some bumps on the brakes. He's gone in a bit hot. He's locked up big time. This is what probably annoying about this is it's a new set of tyres. He's got a nasty little flat spot on the right front, which is going to carry vibration now into the race, and a little bit of overdriving there from Robbie, but still a good time. Only 11th place though for Team GBR at the moment, and I think, Georgie, that is a bit just what they're not expecting, 2 of the qualifying sessions down.
Well, let's see if they can improve it. Session 3 of this afternoon's live qualifying is about to get started. We're building up to it right now in the studio and looking forward to seeing perhaps Team Ireland improve even more, Keith. Yeah, Team Ireland, I'm a bit disappointed with them in 10th place. Ralph Furman certainly looked to be struggling a fraction with that. That's a little misleading, isn't it? Because we can see the second session of drivers there, and Robbie Kerr 11th. That is disappointing though, isn't it, for him?
Another one together to actually take provisional pole position.
Yes, and as Nelson Piquet Senior said, we have about a 3/10 advantage over the rest of the field. All he needs to do is at least one more of those, probably 2 would be nice, and they will find themselves elevated from way back on the 11th row of the grid up to the front row of the grid, where they expected to be. And that was a fairly uncharacteristic error that Piquet Jr. made in turn 1. They had a quick rotation and just put him back into focus, that you can't quite expect to take a liberty as he did do.
So on circuit once again, and it's Basil Chaban of Lebanon who's early on track, and he of course went fastest because he was the first to set 2 times, but actually he's ended up 19th overall so far on the provisional grid for the sprint race. Remember, this qualifying format does determine their starting position for the sprint race only. The sprint race then takes place over around about half an hour. It's just under half an hour race duration, and the finishing positions of that sprint race determine the starting positions of the feature race later in the day. So all the qualifying effort here is about qualifying for that sprint race. If you can qualify well, it can set your whole weekend up. Look at what happened to France last time out in Germany. They started on pole position, they won both races. Brazil did the same at Brands Hatch. So qualifying well is absolutely crucial to scoring well over an A1 Grand Prix weekend. There is our Russian, Michael Aleshin, ready to climb back aboard his car. Currently running in 16th position. Good effort, as we said earlier on. He's only 1 place behind South Africa. Thomas Scheckter at the wheel.
Thomas Scheckter, I asked him during the break between morning and afternoon qualifying whether having Father Judy here was an asset or not, and it was a sort of a nondescript could be, couldn't be, and I tried to pursue it, but really Thomas wasn't forthcoming in whether it was or wasn't. Anyway, Judy's here with his family and keeping an eye on Thomas, as well as I'm sure Mother Pam is doing down in Cape Town.
Well, it's good to see him racing this weekend in A1 Grand Prix. He was racing last weekend, Thomas, of course, in the final IRL race in the United States, and he was leading a good part of it. And unfortunately, the team didn't quite get their fuel calculations right, so he ended up running out of fuel. So that rather blew his chances of finishing the season on a high note. Still got a good top 10 finish, but frustrating for him. He's back here this weekend, but we're looking now at the Italian car, Enrico Topacello. Not as quick as we might have expected. He's down in 17th position currently, and his fastest lap time a 34, 1 minute 34. So some way off the pace so far, but remember, the tyre strategies that some of the teams are using will be different. He may have saved his new tyres until this session, so we might see complete change around here.
Torricello really struggling. We thought this was going to be a front-running team here in Estoril. Torricello now comes down through turn 5, down into turn 6. Easy to outbrake yourself. This is the corner that caught out so many people during wet running. Runs very wide up to the very edge of the curb, and in fact, in some of those where the curbing meets the runoff area, where the rain is being flowing, there's actually a much bigger dip drop-off. So if you drop a wheel over that, it actually could get hooked and could cause major problems.
Yeah, he seemed a little lucky there, running that wide, turning into the corner, but he got away with it, didn't he? Now, into the tight section, full lot left, and then full lot right. Look at the split. On the aggregate, he's a long way down. On his actual individual lap, it's not a particularly quick individual lap, this, I'm afraid, so I'm not sure that Italy is going to be improving greatly on its position in the lower teens.
He seems to be struggling with oversteer, coming through the long centre curve, the back end of the car drifting away, having to again come off the throttle and check it to make sure it doesn't run out of room. Torricello and Team Italy come across the start-finish line and 2.9 seconds away. So
yeah,
he's presently in 6th place.
Yeah, that's not a bad effort. It's a 1 minute 32.1, so it's a reasonably quick lap, about a second off the ultimate pace that we've seen so far, but the times are so close further down the order that a little improvement can gain you a lot of places. So he's jumped up the order from 17th to 6th as the Italian, but of course many other cars still to come out. Now, I wonder how Australia are getting on down there. You can see the work still going on as Will Davison waits to come out.
Yeah, one of the problems when an extinguisher goes off is that the fluid in the bottle is extremely cold. And we saw him when he got out of the car, he took off his glove and he was shaking the glove. And what basically was falling off it was effectively ice, because that's the temperature that those flower bottles are charged at.
Yeah, that's right. Well, now look, here's Ananda Mikula. He's been doing a good job so far. He's been fast for Indonesia. They're currently lying 14th. So I wonder whether we can see an improvement. His best lap in session 2, segment 2, was a 1 minute 32.7. He's got to be careful, otherwise he could throw away any advantage.
Yes, he dragged the right wheel into turn 7, got away with it. He managed to keep the car online, got into the corner, then through 8 and 9, and the climb up the hill, trying to get traction from the rear wheels. Not easy. Now, Ananda Mikula, he's been a racing driver in the background that he's doing a good job.
Yeah, he is, and this will improve him a lot, because he's quite well down the order, but he's about a 1.1 off the aggregate best that we've seen so far. Of course, these are going to improve more and more as we go through this segment, but this will jump him up the order. Let's see, yeah, third place for Indonesia, and that's another very good effort. Some big smiles down there in the Indonesian pit lane, and we'll wait to see how that stacks up against the others once a few more have done a lap. But that was individually a very quick lap, a 1 minute 31.5.
This was a good lap. Now Thomas Schechter for South Africa. You can see what Thomas has done. He's really struggled when he came into Germany 2 weeks ago. He never found the balance of the car. He could not get it to work as he wanted. He's brought an engineer with him from his team in the States to try and give him the car that he wants, as opposed to maybe working around what the car itself likes. So there's been a little bit of a back end steps out there as he gets on the power. So struggling to get the balance, to get the grip, and basically to get to where he wants to be.
Yes, it's been a frustrating time for him so far, but let's see whether he can find some improvement now. The car moving around quite a lot here. He is trying hard, isn't he? And he's
way offline going through turn 12 there, and that's just cost him maybe a half a second in that one corner alone.
Yeah, this is not going to be a major improvement. He's maybe trying a little bit too hard, I'm not sure, but definitely a bit offline as he came around. Let's see where this puts South Africa. They were running 16th. It'll be an improvement. He goes 9th. But I think once we've got a few more times under our belts, that's will drop him back outside the top 10 once we see a few more come in.
Yes, and that lap slower than his previous best by about half a second. So 1:33.5, a disappointment, and particularly going through turn 12. We saw the back of the car. Stefan, he was way off the apex of the corner. I think just compounding the problems that Thomas has had getting a accustomed to or adapting to the A1GP car.
Now this is one to watch. This is Alvaro Parent for Portugal, and he's really on the limit. Only 2/10 down, and that's on the aggregate time. This is going to be a very quick lap indeed for Portugal. He's looking fast, but can he keep it together in the last section?
And he's got, I think it was Malaysia we saw just ahead of him. As far as Fauci will be a car that will come into a sight. So there it is, coming into turn 6. So whether that will come into play or not for Parent is difficult to tell.
Yeah, now he's got to just thread his way up the hill here, try and keep it clean on the exit, not running too wide. And that's tidy now, downhill braking here, and it's a little bit of a blind approach as they turn into this one. Now along this short little straight and into, oh, he's over the curve there, but I don't think he lost too much time.
No, but there was a little slide because he did kick up a bit of water which is caught in the cracks in the curb. That tyre would have been fractionally less grippy than it would have been otherwise if it was on the left-hand rear. So there you see ahead of you Fares Fauci and Team Malaysia. Alvaro Parent for Portugal comes through turn 12 now into this long 13. Malaysia way out to the left. Parent having to make corrections all the way through. Let's free the car up, let it run over the curb. Now can he put himself in a position to challenge for the front row provisionally of the grid?
Let's see, he was 5th after the set, and he's gone 2nd. He's gone 2nd overall. It's France, Portugal, Switzerland, then Indonesia at the moment. That's a great effort from Alvaro Parent. His actual lap time of 32.0, probably not quite quick enough in the long term to keep him in 2nd place on the grid, but for the moment that's a good effort from Parent.
Matt Halliday, Team New Zealand, he makes his way out of turns 7 into 8. It's almost a flat out flick through there, then suddenly on the brakes, down 3 gears, turn hard to the left, straighten it up, try to keep the car as straight as possible, try to get the maximum amount of traction of that tight turn 10.
Only 12th after the first 2 qualifying segments. Always working that steering wheel hard, isn't he? Out through the last quarter now, the centre curve. Watch the steering, watch for the correction as he comes out of the bend and gets the power on fully. That was fairly neat and tidy. Looks as though he was fighting the understeer more than trying to correct the car. Let's see what it is across the line. It puts him 8th overall. That's not a bad lap, a 1:33.0, but again, about half a second down on his previous best. It makes you wonder, John, perhaps he used a new set of tyres for qualifying segment 2, and he's maybe back out on them again for this segment.
I think the teams are having to decide what's the best way to go. We've got a slight imbalance in the number of tyres we're accustomed to having, and so they're deciding, do they go for a second run on a new set of tyres, having used them in the first session? It's a gamble to do them both in the 3rd and 4th session as Team Malaysia comes across the line. Fares Fauci, we saw him just ahead, 1.5 seconds down. Malaysia go provisional 7th, just behind Czech Republic.
Again, that lap time a little slower than the lap time he did in the previous segment. Again, maybe they're saving their final set of new tyres for segment 4, qualifying segment 4. We're on board now with the United States and Scott Speed looking to put in a quick lap. He needs something a bit special. Looks to me as though they may have saved their new tyres. Let's see what kind of a lap time this is going to be. Puts him into 10th place, but again, it's not a particularly quick individual lap time.
So Team Australia finally get back out on track, having had their extinguisher go off, so that's all been replaced. Will Davison out on his lap. So let's see Team Australia into 6 seconds down. Of course, this is all to do with the fact that he lost time in that second run.
That's right, yeah, this is his aggregate is based on his very opening lap in the first segment when everybody was going fairly slowly, so this won't be much for Australia. They're going to have to save it all up for the final segment.
But this run is important because he's got this run and the final run. The first one, of course, is almost irrelevant, so he's got to get a strong run in session 3 and session 4. He's under pressure.
Yeah, puts in 19th with a 1:33.9 as an individual lap time. Not fast enough, really. He's got to get into the 32 to be quick. Now, Brazil is on a lap. There is Nelson Piquet, and it's looking like another quick lap. This could be enough for Brazil to go from where they are right now, which is currently 23rd, because remember, their first qualifying segment went disastrously wrong. They could go from 23rd to pole on this lap.
And Piquet looks very, very good through turns 7 and 8 into 9 into 10. A matter of keeping the traction, keeping the back end of the car glued to the road. Don't be too aggressive on the throttle. Don't be too aggressive on the steering wheel. He was aggressive turning into turn 12 there, but got away with it. Got the car settled back back of the car settle. Now this long sweeping turn 13.
Very good out of there as well. He was well up on the split time. This looks as though it's going to be pole position for Brazil. Will it be enough to beat France? I think it will, yes. Pole position for Brazil. And the two nations that have dominated qualifying so far in A1 Grand Prix are fighting against each other here now. It's Brazil versus France. They're one pole apiece in A1 Grand Prix. Brazil took pole at Brands Hatch. France took pole in Germany. Which of them is going to take it this time in Portugal?
Well, France is going to respond for sure. They've been the most consistent team, certainly over the period of the three events that we're presently at. So Alexander Parent, who really has been unchallenged all the way through up until now, is having to deal with the threat that is coming from Brazil.
Yeah, he's just going on to his hot lap now. So let's watch him from high above. We can see the French car looking good through the first corner. The aggregate time ticking away at the top there and a big slide. That was good to see through turn 2. Now watch him under heavy braking. The car fairly stable. Get on the power. Try to be a little bit careful.
You've got to really wait until you're almost straight. If you try and get on the power coming out of 3 too early, you're going to get the back end moving around, losing your time. So it's a question of just keeping the balance of the car, that ultra-fine balance that is the difference between being too slow and too fast.
Switzerland has taken pole. Switzerland's got fastest overall, faster even than Brazil. A great lap from Neil Yarni, which has only just been completed at 31.0. So an excellent
Ireland in trouble. Ireland pulling off into turn 7.
So Ireland, Ralph Furman is pulling off track. That doesn't hinder France. They get through there without being held up. But France, are they going to reclaim the top spot here? Their lap is not looking that good. Look, on the sector, plus 0.5. They're not going to reclaim pole. It's not from Brazil now, it's from Switzerland.
And he's going to have to do an awful lot of work coming through turn 12. All he can try and do is minimise that half a second that he lost at that second intermediate by getting through turn 13. It looks good. It's a pretty good entry, a nice exit. Lets the car run a little bit wide. We've seen Prix do that pretty much through his 3 runs so far this afternoon.
Here we go, across the line. It's third. So Switzerland, Brazil are now both ahead of France. But what is going on with the tyre use, I wonder?
Well, we don't know that, but certainly maybe a slight look of surprise. But what happens in the third session for France? They've got one more session to go, and I'm sure they'll have something fresh in the drawer to pull out.
So Great Britain, now they were 11th after the first 2 segments. They have dropped down to 17th because they've waited until this stage to put in their next flying lap, their third flying lap. They are going to beat the checkered flag just about, but will this be enough to move Robbie up into the top 10 for Team Great Britain? Let's see. Yes, he moves up to 6th. Good improvement there for Great Britain. 1:32.3, a reasonably quick lap, but he's not down in the 1-minute 30s yet. There is Jos Verstappen for the Netherlands.
Yes, the veteran driver again waiting until the very last possible moment before he goes out and makes his third qualifying attempt. 1.6 seconds down. That's quite a lot of time. So Jos Verstappen is not going to be challenging at this point. Remember, one more session of 15 minutes to go. That can all change, and what we don't know, because of the tyre situation, which is different to that we've seen over the previous 2 rounds in relation to new sets of tyres and used sets of tyres, so teams may well decide to hold back until the 4th session, by which time the circuit should be at its best.
It should be at its best. The weather's looking good. They're 7th place then for the Netherlands. So Great Britain stays ahead of the Netherlands. Great Britain have done a good job there. They've moved themselves up several places, but the Netherlands have dropped back because they were 4th after 2 segments, and now they find themselves down in 7th place. So that's 3 out of the 4 completed, and we now have a situation where top dog is Switzerland. The Swiss fastest, 2nd Brazil, but Brazil still has the fastest individual lap time, and that was from segment 2. So they're feeling in good shape, I should think. The Czechs are still good. They're in 4th place. Host nation Portugal is in 5th position. Up to 6th now has come Great Britain, 7th for the Netherlands, and then a good effort from Indonesia because Ananda Mikula has allowed them to be in 8th place. 9th position for Mexico. There's Salvador Duran. He's back in the Mexican car this weekend. It was David Martinez last time in Germany, but Duran is back out and he's doing a good job. And then Malaysia, look, Faris Fauzi has got them up into 10th place. They're ahead of in 11th place Canada, driven by Sean McIntosh. 12th Germany, and let's look at the surprise. Sutil I thought was going to be going quicker than than that. Also down further than expected, New Zealand 13th, USA 14th, and Italy 15th. Those two nations, Italy and USA, yet to score, and quite a long way down the list too. South Africa's down there, and then we've got Ireland, Russia, China, Austria, with at the bottom of the list Australia, Lebanon, Pakistan and India. It could change though, and with maybe teams keeping a new set of tyres for this last segment to come, we could see some quite rapid changes in order in the final part of qualifying. So plenty to look forward to here.
So just the one session left then for teams and drivers to stake their claims for pole. Reaction analysis and the final session from Estoril is next. Welcome back to the Autodromo do Estoril. Just one qualifying session left for teams and drivers to stake their claims. It didn't go according to plan for Ralph Furman though. Pulled off the track in that last session. Let's get more from the Irish team boss, Mark Gallagher.
Mark, can you tell us what's happened to the car out on the track?
Yes, well, Ralph came on the radio to say that he's lost drive, and we don't know specifically what the problem is, but it's either a broken gear or a broken drive shaft by the sense of things.
So he'll be coming back in. Will he be driving the second car?
No, the second car isn't fully fettled, ready to run, so we're going to see if we can carry out repairs on the existing car, but obviously there's not much time, so we could be pushed to get out, and obviously it's couldn't come at a worse time actually in the middle of qualifying this.
Well, we'll let you get on with things. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
For Switzerland's Neil Yarni, things couldn't be more different. He is on pole.
Neil Yarni, fastest driver so far. Swiss timing's looking good.
Yeah, looks good at the moment, but still one more run to go. So I hope we can hold the position.
You're in heated discussion with your engineers there. Are you telling them stuff or are they telling you stuff?
Well, it's a teamwork, you know, so they are telling me stuff and I tell them some stuff.
How confident are you that you can hold everyone else off in the last section?
Oh, we'll see. I mean, it's also a little bit luck with it. No traffic and need to not do a mistake. So, but I'm quite confident for the moment.
Neil, merci, dankeschön, grazie.
Danke.
Well, you thought Brazil were fast, you thought France were fast, and then Neil Yarni and Switzerland arrived, Keith. Spoiled the party.
Indeed. I mean, that was the thing. We were watching Brazil all the way through that session. I mean, it was a perfect lap from Piquet. Then the French went out and had a bit of a go at it. And all of a sudden, Neil Yarni blitzes all of them.
I know, he's just slowly chipping away at it. I think he works very, very hard. He's very committed. He's working well with his team. He's at the top of his game, and he's just getting better. He's showing real progress, and I think he's the dark horse this weekend.
Well, let's take a bit of a look at Nelson Piquet, and Andy can talk us through this, because we really were espousing enthusiastically just how good a lap this looked. He just looked like he was perfectly on the edge. Look at this, so balanced.
Beautiful braking there. He's braking to the limit of the car without going beyond the limit. Beautiful control power slide on the exit. Nicely balanced car, good commitment, meeting apex everywhere, really driving with a lot of confidence and a lot of control. He's really got the best out of that car, I would say, on that lap.
He certainly seems to be the man of the moment, doesn't he, Nelson Piquet? He is the man to beat, I think, in this class at this moment in time.
Yeah, he's definitely operating at the top of his game, and he also, you can see he's confident with his environment, his team. The team are behind him. Emerson Fittipaldi there, looking impressed. You know, that sort of confidence from people like that, you just can't buy that. And he's driving really, really well.
Oh, we were having a bit of a side bet in here about whether the French were going to be able to respond to that. Of course, Alexandre Premat, he's got the car nailed to the floor. Dams are doing a brilliant job with the car. Could he beat the Brazilian was the question. And the answer, sadly for them, was absolutely no. Just a little bit off the pace everywhere.
He was, but look at that confidence there to slide the rear of the car through that fast second corner there. Massive commitment, road dropping away on the exit. He's really, really fast. I think they made a change. They went a little bit far with the change, bit of oversteer, bring it back, and I think you're going to see a titanic battle for the top three.
And all the time we were watching Neil Yarni from Switzerland that was taking pole position. So as we go forth to our fourth session of the day, we're looking at Team Brazil. Let's rejoin our commentators.
So there's a lot to think about.
Yes, and I think that a lot of drivers will have thought long and hard about it, but clearly the biggest trouble for me is not going to be whether or not you've held back sets of new tyres. It's really when you go out and trying to find a clear lap rather than worrying about a tenth of a second here on a brand new or a new set of tyres.
Minor little adjustments still being made to the French car there. Interesting to see that they're looking for that little bit more pace. On individual lap speed, it's still Nelson Piquet Jr. for Brazil who set the outright fastest lap of the 3 segments that we've had so far, and his best performance of 1 minute 30.7. He's the only driver to have got below the 1 minute 31 second barrier.
Yes, just looking into Team France's garage, the reason they're making changes to the car is effectively what they're doing in conjunction with used tyres, also those 2 new sets, is they're chasing the circuit. But each time they go out, the circuit actually is minutely changing, whether it's from wind direction and the wind is picking up again, much more wind blowing as we come into the 4th qualifying session as we had at the start of the session. So that affects cars at certain parts of the racetrack. Also, it's going to be blowing into their faces much more as they come down the long 700-metre long pit straight. So all these are factors that teams are picking up. They're seeing the wind, they're seeing what is happening on track. They've got a set of new tyres, or maybe they've used all the new tyres. It's a conundrum, and they've got to make the best of it.
Neil Yarny's looking relaxed at the moment. He is the man on pole position, and Switzerland's looking good for its first pole in A1 Grand Prix, but who knows? We could see that change around, particularly with the likes of Brazil and France and the Czech Republic knocking on the door. Thomas Enger driving for the Czech Republic, not far off himself. Now, here we are, riding with Lebanon again, and we're going to have a little look at the lap from this onboard vantage point. John, so talk us through it a little.
So you've got to really get slowed down into turn 1. The corner turns back in itself. There's the curve that's so easy to ride, and that's been holding quite a lot of water from the 2 days of rain. Then into 3, it's a quick sharp turn in, careful on the exit, then locking up the brakes coming into turn 3. You've always got to wait to get on the throttle. If you get on too early, there's a chance the back end will get away. Remember, without traction control, that's a big problem. 4 is one of those long corners. Again, it's just a constant corner, waiting, pick up the throttle, waiting to see the exit, then flat out through turn 5 and the run down into turn 6. Easy to outbrake yourself, particularly as we saw from the 2 days of running in the wet. No problem here for Basil Shaban as he runs slightly wider than I thought he might have done in the mid part of the corner. Picks up throttle, runs down to 7. Again, a corner you've got to get the car slowed up. Make your early apex, let the car then use the full width of the road on the exit of the corner, and immediately you're into turn 8. And once you've got through 8, it's hard on the brakes, too far into the left. Basil did not get his car back to the right to get a much easier cut in. You can see the amount of lock compromised really from turn 8 all the way through 9 and 10. Into turns 11 and then 12, that's the final of the S's, then into this long Senna, turn 13, picks up the throttle all the way around, but we've seen an and a big oversteer there, and really lucky not to get any further right to the left onto the rough stuff. So an exciting lap from Basil Chapin, and certainly I'd love to see a lot more on-board shots like that, because we learned a lot from that.
Well, he stays we're in 22nd position at the moment, but look how early Brazil have gone out. Nelson Piquet has gone out very early in this session, and he's up. He's up on the split times. He's looking quick here, is Nelson Piquet Jr. The first split was very impressive. Can he maintain that pace now?
He's got to do it all in this lap. If he makes a mistake, as you saw on the first qualifying run, it's all over for him, because he missed the first one. The second one was good. The third one was just eclipsed by Switzerland. So it's really now in the hands of the young Brazilian. Can he get Brazil back up to the front of the grid? He knows that's where he should be. He's using every bit of curb, locks up, drags the front left wheel into turn 10. Not really too much problem there, but you know, you're right on the edge.
Great to see, though. He is very smooth, very stylish. A little bit of a correction there through the penultimate corner. Now through the long, sweeping right-hander. Things are still looking good on this lap. He's going to do enough to take pole position, surely. The man who started at Brands Hatch on pole is going to snatch the fastest time here from Switzerland. Brazil takes pole, and it's by nearly a a second, and the lap time was very, very impressive. On 1 minute 30.5, again he set the outright fastest lap here today amongst any of the nations.
Well, he had a task to do. He went out, did it supremely. He now has to come back into the pits and sit for 10 minutes to see whether Switzerland can respond, whether France can leap from third up to the front of the grid. Don't forget Thomas Enger in the Czech Republic or Alvaro Parent in Portuguese.
Well, those 2 lap times that have given Brazil an aggregate of 3 minutes 1.3 are both faster than anybody else has achieved on a single lap yet. So that gives you an idea of just how quickly Piquet has gone on his 2 best laps. Presumably those 2 laps have both been on new tyres. We know they only had the 2 sets of tyres to use, but what a good performance that was.
And also it just goes to show how much practice makes perfect, because as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Nelson Piquet Jr. spent Monday here testing in a race car to get the rhythm of the circuit. Okay, the cars are totally different, but he got the sight of the circuit. He got it in dry conditions as we have here in qualifying. So when we came here on Friday, virtually no dry running at all. Saturday morning, virtually no dry running at all. He had a big advantage.
Now, Portugal, they are currently lying in 5th position. So, can they improve on that? Can we see a front row start for the host nation? That will have to require a very, very quick lap indeed from Alvaro Parent, but you never know. On the aggregate, he's 1.3 down on Brazil. That would be enough if he's maintained it, though, to pop up into 3rd place, depending on what others do. So if he can just sustain that sort of performance, we could see an improvement here from Parent.
So down into turn 5, flat out through there. So easy to make a mistake. 5 is not a corner, 6 is a corner. So get your braking right, get the entry to the corner right. A little bit of understeer on the entry, but pretty much everybody's been struggling with that. Through turn 6, it's one of those corners that encourages understeer. The track actually falls away from you. Now I'm into turn 7, make that early apex, let the car then free up all the way out to the exit and get much better. Turn through 8 we saw the Lebanese car go through there, and it was not the ideal line. Much different approach from Alvaro Parent as he climbs up through 10, then into 11, balancing the car. What a work in the steering wheel for the Portuguese driver.
Yeah, he was down to 1.6 on that last split, so whether he's going to improve, he may be able to improve a little bit, but it's going to be tough to go ahead of Czech Republic, which is his next target, if you like, the car that is 1 place ahead of him on the provisional grid. Let's see whether it is enough or not. No, he stays in 5th place, so no improvement, I'm afraid, from Alvaro Parent on the lap. It was a good lap, but it wasn't quite enough to drag him that little bit further up the grid. His best individual lap so far, but not quite quick enough.
So Portugal, and that's the best they can expect, because we still have got to see Switzerland and France and the Czech Republic complete their final runs. They are ahead of him, so the prospect, unless they make a huge error, is that he's going to start on the 3rd row of the grid.
Yes, the car that's right behind him is Great Britain, but I'm not sure that Robbie Kerr is going to be able to need to find the 7/10 of a second or so that he's going to require. We'll have to wait and see if he can match up his previous best lap with another very quick one he might. Now here's China, and Teng Yijian not doing a bad job again, John. He's 20th currently. There are 4 teams slower than China so far, and as in Germany he out-qualified some good names.
Yes, he did, and he's benefited from having the experience of that well-known Grand Prix engineer James Robinson working with him, and they've been literally finding seconds on each of the sessions that they've gone out.
Yeah, he's just climbed back up to 19th place. That puts him ahead of Russia, Austria, Lebanon, India and Pakistan currently. So those are the cars down towards the tail end of the grid. Mexico has just completed a lap. Mexico 9th on the provisional grid at the moment, having completed all of their qualifying runs. We're still waiting, though, for those other front runners, Switzerland and France, to come out.
With 6 minutes remaining, key to this lap is just going to be getting the clear lap. It doesn't matter if you've got a car that's a second lap quicker. If you meet traffic, then you're going to be trouble. Now, those are used tyres. Where we're looking anyway, maybe...
Sure, actually,
maybe they are better new tyres. Yeah, they've got a machine on them, just giving a reflection on the screen. But really, a new set of tyres will be of no use to whatsoever if you time your lap incorrectly and get yourself caught behind a car that's maybe on its out lap, or a car that's having completed its time lap, making its way back into the pits.
Well, here comes France out onto circuit. Now, France had provisional pole after 2 qualifying segments of this entire qualifying session. They then dropped to 3rd place, and that's where they are at the moment. They're on the 2nd row. They won't want that. Their perhaps main objective is to beat this car, the Swiss car, and get a front row start. I think Brazil's 2 times combined is maybe a little out of reach when you compare what these guys have done so far. It's that front row starting position that both France and Switzerland want.
So Scott Speed for Team USA exits turn 6 and into turn 7. We've not seen performance yet again. Overall, we've seen it in individual qualifying sessions, but here Team USA all the way down in 16th place. So Scott Speed and Team USA colours, time's up 3.4 seconds in aggregate. Is a bunch of time.
Yeah, it is. It's an awful lot of time to make up, and he's currently down in 16th place. But if he can put in a quick lap, then he might well be able to climb quite a lot of places. He just needs to dial it all in together here as he comes out of the last corner and onto the straight. Can USA improve on 16th position, get somewhere inside that top 10? Not quite. He's 12th.
Yes, so there's an improvement, but 12th, 6th row of the grid, that's not where they want to be. It's not where they should be.
No, that's right, and they're just outside the points there. The points score down to 10th place, remember, puts them in a chance of getting into the points.
So here's the man that can challenge for pole position. Alexander Prix sits out of long turn 13, goes on to start his final qualifying lap down into turn 1. So it will be a late break for Prix. He's not been afraid to use the curbs both on the entry and on the exit of this corner, but much sweeter this time. Confidence is high, and this is going to be a challenge. Whether it will
what a slide, and he held it brilliantly.
As I said, confidence is there.
Yeah, he hit that curve a little bit on the inside though, and that was pretty impressive from Prix for France.
But half a second down so far in this first intermediate split.
Well, that could be the loss of a front row starting position right there and then, because he was trying so hard and he had a big slide through that second corner. Just take a look at this again, John. Just that overhead view, actually not showing it.
It doesn't show it at all. I mean, we saw the slide from the rear view of the camera, but the overhead shot didn't quite show it in the same way. So down into turn 7.
Let's see.
Get it in neat, get the car into the apex, then let it drift all the way out. He uses the curb here, not as much in this particular run. Well, although when he gets it completely sideways, he used the curb. The right-hand wheel actually got hooked. He was so much off track, it hooked on the inside of the curb, threw the car sideways.
It still might be on for a quick lap, which will still maybe challenge Switzerland for the front row. I'm not sure it's going to be quite enough. His best has been a 1:31.0 in the second qualifying segment. He needs to repeat that kind of pace. Let's see what he can do. The odd little error, just trying so hard. Can he go second fastest? No, he can't. He's third, and Switzerland have retained the front row starting position. They're really going to be happy about that. Neil Yarny's on track, but he's already done enough to take a front row start here at Estoril.
Yes, all he's got to do is now try and do enough to displace Piquet and Brazil off the pole position, which would obviously be nice. But starting in the front row of the grid, I think he'll be pretty satisfied with half a second away after 4 sessions. And, well, they'll be fairly happy with that.
Yeah, good lap that. That was a 1:30.7, which is just about the same as Nelson Piquet's second fastest lap time. Oh, and a good slide there from Thomas Enger as well. Another great, that's a good corner, that second corner, to really see the car working. Now remember, the Czech Republic are trying to improve on 4th place. Can they put France under pressure for 3rd? Could be an opportunity here.
So Thomas Enger not afraid to use all the 520 horsepower. We don't have the power push button in qualifying. It only applies in the feature race, so 520 horsepower. And at times you think you could do with double that.
Yeah, it would be lovely for the driver, I'm sure, but he's got to make the most of what he's got, and they are powerful machines, these, and Thomas Enger's using every ounce of power here as he heads up the hill, back down again, and now approaching that twiddly tight section where we'll get an indication on the second split. It's France's 3rd position that he's really targeting here. 1.8 down on the outright pole. That probably isn't enough to challenge France, because France is currently 1.2 seconds off the outright pole.
No, it's not, and as this session comes to conclusion, he locks up again into turn 12. Big black clouds are beginning to form over the racetrack. They're rolling in off the mountains once again, so I think we're just going to see this session conclude before once again heavens open up.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate with the weather for this qualifying session. Czech Republic across the line, they stay in 4th place. Still a great effort and their best qualifying performance of the series so far. The Czechs will be very happy to start in 2nd position. That was a fairly impressive lockup.
Yes, it was. Hopefully there's no flat spot on that tyre. I don't think we'll see much trouble for that. If it does, quick rebalance, it'll be fine. Jos Verstappen, pretty much the last car on track now for Team Netherlands, and currently Jos Verstappen down in 10th place, which is disappointing. No doubt he will find a little extra 10th or 2 and be up on maybe 8th.
Well, maybe he can just finish off this lap and improve it slightly. He did a 1:31.6 earlier. If he can do another mid-31 second lap here, he could move up several places. Great Britain has done its final lap. They're currently 8th, but ahead of both of them are Malaysia and Indonesia. An outstanding performance from both Malaysia and Indonesia. They are currently 6th and 7th. They have done really well. Germany down in 9th, and Germany is the first target for Jos Verstappen because he's 10th. Can the Dutch get ahead of the Germans? Well, let's wait and see as he comes out of the final corner. He's attacking, still pushing on hard. Where's this going to put the Netherlands? They're currently 11th. Is it going to be? Yeah, look at that big improvement. Up to 5th. It puts them ahead of Portugal, ahead of Canada, Malaysia, Indonesia, and it pushes Great Britain down to 10th place. Good effort that from Verstappen. Well, he'll celebrate that little achievement there of getting on to, what is that going to be, the 3rd row of the grid for Jos Verstappen. But there's the man who is king of qualifying at Estoril for the 2nd time this year. Brazil has dominated qualifying, and remember, at Brands Hatch, John, when he took pole position, he went on to dominate the races too.
Yes, he's got a car that looks good on the racetrack. He made that one fundamental unforced error in the first session, but he redeemed himself and looked just better and better through the sequence of 3 following sessions. So Team Brazil, Nelson Piquet Jr. undoubtedly relieved, and I think going into the sprint race on Sunday afternoon feeling quite confident, but don't displace Switzerland. Neil Yarni is one of those quiet guys that just gets on and does the job. France will be looking to come back clearly because they, I think, we've been maybe surprised that they've been knocked off their perch, have been pretty much the dominant team up until qualifying, and Thomas Enger and the Netherlands 5th and 4th could also be a big part of the match.
Well, they're father and son congratulating Nelson Piquet Jr., and that was a really beautiful couple of laps that he drove there. The 1:30.7 that he did in the 2nd segment, and then that 1:30.5 that he did in session 4, a full 0.2 of a second faster than anybody else managed at any stage. Neil Yarni was the closest for Switzerland in terms of an individual lap time. He was also incredibly consistent, was Yarni, but at the end of the day it was Piquet for Brazil who's taken pole position here at Estoril. France behind Switzerland, the Czechs with their best qualifying performance so far. So for the Netherlands, because Jos Verstappen was 10th on the grid last time, he's now in 5th. That's a good effort. Look at Canada, they're being consistent. Sean McIntosh doesn't have as much experience as all those guys around him, but he's in there in 7th place. Then you've got Malaysia and Indonesia and Great Britain in 10th place. They'll be a little disappointed with that. Germany, I think, will be slightly disappointed with 11th, just ahead of Mexico, Italy, New Zealand. Now remember, New Zealand are joint 2nd in the championship, and they're down in 14th on the grid. USA 15th, South Africa in 16th place, Russia ahead of Ireland. Poor old Ireland had those mechanical problems, so they had no opportunities. Australia, with that fire extinguisher going off, didn't have much luck. They're 19th on the grid. China again out qualifying 4 cars, including Austria, Pakistan, Lebanon and India. And Lebanon 23rd on the grid, and this time India taking that final spot on the grid in 24th.
So Brazil, Nelson Piquet Jr. starting on pole for tomorrow's sprint race. Reaction and analysis next. Welcome back to Portugal and to Estoril for A1 Grand Prix 3rd race weekend. That is what you call timing. Heavy rain yesterday, sun for qualifying today, and guess what? It is raining again. As we understand it, though, the weather forecast for tomorrow is good. So teams, drivers and us in the studio will look forward to events as they unfold tomorrow. Let's just bring you up to date with classification and results from qualifying. This is how it pans out for tomorrow's sprint race. Nelson Piquet Jr. on pole. Pretty impressive from him today, Keith.
I've got to say that Piquet has looked good all the way through the weekend, and he is the outstanding driver at this moment in time in the A1GP. But look at Neil Jani. Neil Jani, for me, is the one that we've got to watch out for here. The Swiss driver has absolutely made Estoril all his own. But Premat's not over and done with yet in third.
Has been a bit of a battle, hasn't it, between Brazil, Switzerland and France today? They have swapped pole on many occasions.
Yeah, but I think you've still got to watch out for that bouncing Czech in fourth place. Thomas Enger, he's finished with the IndyCar series now. He's concentrating on A1 Grand Prix. And I think Thomas Enger, the Czech, Andy, could still be the dark horse here.
Yeah, this is only his second race. As you say, he was distracted last weekend with other commitments, but he's looking very, very strong. He's improving. I'm most impressed of all with Neil Jani. He's chipping away at it beautifully, and Brazil to be consistently dipping into the 130s, really impressive.
And Switzerland only fourth overall in this championship at the moment, so everything to play for as far as the Swiss is concerned. This could be a real fight coming from them now.
Andy, earlier on you were talking about how you think this circuit might well play into the hands of those with experience. Jos Verstappen has shown that he's got what it takes out there, hasn't he, today?
Absolutely, pulled out a crucial lap at the end of the session, obviously worked on his setup over the 3 sessions and performed at a crucial time. He'll be very, very happy with that performance, and I think, you know, he's only going to get faster. But we saw, I think if I was Alexander Primat in France, I'd be a little bit disappointed today. A little bit of overdriving there, lost the rear of the car and lost crucial time.
We should, of course, talk about the home driver, who's Alvaro Parente, also impressive today, and finishes Sixth.
Indeed, not bad in the end. He managed to pick up the ball and run with it towards the end there. His qualifying position puts him on the third row. Matt Halliday from New Zealand is the one that I'm a bit concerned about. He's down in 14th. He got balked. He's really, I don't think his qualifying reflects what he's going to be capable of in the sprint race tomorrow. So watch some fireworks from the New Zealanders a little further down on the grid.
OK, well, we certainly look forward to events as they unfold tomorrow. Just to let you know, Great Britain finishing in 10th and Ireland finishing there in 18th. So that's how it all starts. Confirmation of tomorrow's sprint race. There is another chance, incidentally, to see the best of this afternoon's A1 Grand Prix qualifying. That's from 7 tonight on Sky Sports Extra. Then tomorrow it is race day, uninterrupted live race coverage from Portugal getting underway from 1 on Sky Sports 2. Well, the circuit here at Estoril may well take its name from the holiday resort that is close by to it. But any thoughts of rest and relaxation banished this afternoon as Brazil, France and Switzerland battled it out for pole. It was Nelson Piquet Jr. who took it.
At speed, turn it on. What I need to mow my lawn. You're my steed, I ride till dawn. And the main vein bleeds till my strength is gone. I'm in the saddle, I'm in the race. I try not to rattle, but you set the pace. When I start to struggle to share your space, you stop and then you stick it in my face, stick it in my face, you stick it in my face.